rush, it's an addiction, it's a drug. I did sadistically, premeditatedly tortured and murdered Yvette Pena.
This was the cold and twisted confession from the mind of a man who is so evil, a prisoner so wicked that he only derives pleasure from torturing and killing people.
Torture and all that, it's a rush, it's an addiction, it's a drug. I would rather do that than do drugs. I'd rather do that than have.
It doesn't matter to him if you're just an innocent 37-year-old mother of 6 children or a prisoner about to be released on parole. He has no problem stabbing you in the back or wearing your body parts like a necklace.
I don't care if you're my brother or sister, I don't care if you're whoever, it's self-gratification.
It didn't matter for him that he just met them for the first time. The only thing he cared about is how much he enjoyed killing them.
The smell, the decomposing, the maggot, for me is not a nightmare. For me it is a, how can I say, like a prize, like a trophy. It's a picture, it's a memory, it's a photograph that I can go back and look and get pleasure.
Surprisingly, his mother said he was normal as a child.
He didn't come out of the womb an evil killer. He was a normal, loving kid.
And even his ex-wife believes this too.
Very few people born evil. It's rare. I believe it's nurture over nature.
So, what actually happened to turn a normal, loving kid into an evil monster? Was he born evil, or did he become evil? Keep watching to hear the disturbing story of Jaime Osuna, a man who called himself the man with 1,000 faces, a real-life Joker. You are watching Crime Tales
After Nightfall.
Jaime Osuna's life was already filled with evil even before he was born. His father was abusive to Jaime's mother, and he can be described best as an evil man. A man who kicked his heavily pregnant wife in the stomach. No one knows how badly this evil action may have affected Jaime's life, and it was not surprising that they got divorced shortly after Jaime was born. Unfortunately for little Jaime, his mother got married to another evil man. A man so horrible he would push a little boy out of a moving car just because he was fed up with his crying. It's a miracle that little Jaime survived such a horrible experience, because nothing was done to help him. He was not even taken to the hospital. But even as Jaime grew up, the abuse only got worse. His stepfather would starve Jaime and even go as far as tie him to a tree and beat him. Jaime had to be taken to a hospital for treatment. And nothing was done to stop this evil man. He did die of a heart attack many years later, but by then it was too late. The damage had been done to Jaime.
I was a weak person and could have stopped all of that, or it got really bad with Jaime, and I didn't.
And pretty soon, nothing could stop the evil that began to take over little Jaime's heart.
Since I was a kid, 8, 9 years old, I killed animals. My mom would go to the store, I'll put the cat in the freezer, 15 minutes, let it out, put it in the oven, let it out.
But the evil did not stop with animals, because Jaime was only 13 years old when he killed his first victim, a 27-year-old man. He was first arrested when he was just 15 years old. His crime was stabbing another boy, and by the time he was 19 years old, he had killed another 33-year-old woman, and nothing could be done to him because he was never caught. He only confessed to these murders many years later. He was just 20 years old when he was arrested again for stabbing a man. He was a truly hardened criminal at this point, and he also started getting his tattoos. The man with 1,000 faces was born. When he was 22 years old, Jaime met and married his wife, Joelle. But this did not change him in any way. Later that same year, he was arrested and jailed for injuring his wife. And in the same month he was arrested, they welcomed their first child. That means Jaime had become so evil that he had injured his wife while she was pregnant. Sounds familiar? From that point on, things just went from bad to worse. He was soon arrested and convicted of the torture and murder of Yvette Pena, a woman he just met briefly.
I was introduced to her. I met her like one time, then I came back the next night and I seen opportunity, no one's there.
It was a mindless act of pure evil from a man who didn't even need a reason to kill.
I don't have no sympathy. I'm sadistic. I really don't care. I'll do it and I'll do it again over and over and over.
But unfortunately for Yvette and her grieving family, nothing was done for the next 6 years. Jaime was simply locked away and his trial delayed. By the time his trial came up 6 years later, he pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison. But that didn't even bother him at all. He would write sinister letters to the DA declaring he was now a Satanist, and he had it tattooed on his face to prove it. In his letters, Jaime would hail Satan and boldly promise that more people would die. And even though he was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, he soon fulfilled his promise and committed the most gruesome murder of his life. Prison officials always put Jaime alone in a cell for obvious reasons. They just could not take the risk of pairing him with any other prisoner. But then, one day, they did just that. They brought in Luis Romero and locked him in the same cell as Jaime. Romero had spent 27 years in prison and was about to be released on parole. But just 24 hours after he was locked up with Jaime, prison guards discovered Romero's dismembered body. Jaime had covered the window of his cell with a bed sheet and went to work. It was a horrible disaster. When the guards finally came into the cell, they found Jaime wearing a necklace. It was made up of Romero's body parts. The autopsy confirmed that Romero was still alive while he was being butchered. He died of blood loss. And seeing all of this, one thing is certain. Jaime's story is a chilling reminder that evil makes evil. Because Jaime wasn't born evil, but he definitely was made this way by his horrible childhood. That is not to say that in any way his actions should be forgiven, but it definitely teaches us to be good to our children.